Good evening and welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WCTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television, and once again, In Focus is obviously not in the studio. We have found an absolutely beautiful day, and when you get one of those, you hang out in the park. So that's what I'm doing, playing hooky, baby. So I had to find somebody to hang out with me, so I went to the foundation. Steve Borchers, who never has anything to do, has decided
with anyone.
anyone, anywhere, right, has decided to spend a little time with me. So first of all, Steve, thank you very much for coming out to the park with us.
Thank you, Eric.
If the splash pad was up, we could roll up our pants and.
Sorry, I thought you were going to be set up, you know. Stand me up in the splash pad.
We think about it all the time.
That's right.
Last September, you and Pat Heine were on In Focus talking about Forward Wayne County and early learning initiatives. One of the things that I've noticed in this community sometimes is that things get kind of rolled out to the community, and then the community never hears about them again.
That's right.
And I think you've probably been a part of some of those through no fault of anybody's. Things just keep moving, but the community never gets updates.
Right.
So I wanted to kind of have you on for a few minutes to see if we could update a little bit some people as to what's happening with the whole idea of Forward Wayne County. And for those who missed your September interview, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that initiative is?
Thank you. Forward Wayne County is an idea, a framework, I guess, a conversation that is designed to help us better align community resources around economic vitality and personal prosperity. And we think the way to do that, to be most effective at doing that, is to do those things that will promote, that will help attract, develop, and retain a more competitive workforce. And the things that go into that are human capital development and quality of place issues.
Okay.
And so part of the human capital development side of the equation includes a lot of educational related things, and that's probably what Pat and I were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that can range all the way from birth to 5 kinds of initiatives and early preschool education, all the way through ideas to promote greater access to and greater success at post-secondary education, and to be more, to be more work ready, to enhance employability skills, to do those things that are going to make us more attractive as a community to employers and to existing employers who need an improved workforce, who need a higher quality workforce in order for them to be more efficient. And so it's not it's never been a question of is it a chicken or egg thing. Do you have will you attract more employers if you have a better workforce, or do you need to have a better workforce to attract more employers? And whichever way that goes. Sounded like a heads I win, tails you lose situation, but it's never been an either or question. It's always an and both.
Okay.
And so Forward Wayne County is a framework or a structure that we hope will help better align community resources with respect to identified, accepted, and measurable goals to help do those things we need to do to make us grow.
The meetings around this have been going on really for how long now?
A while. We have 2 sets of meetings. There's been what we call leadership forum, which is a big group of people. It's open invitation. We have people on a list. We'll remind them about it periodically, but it's not a set schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But we want a lot of people involved in that, and because that's where we float some ideas, that's where we help spread the word about what's going on, and help people align their own organization's interests to the bigger picture. And then there's a steering committee that's been sort of self-appointed so far, that will more and more as we get into this, begin to act like a board of directors and really help set an agenda for those things that set those priorities for the what we think are important in the community to get done.
One of the things that you mentioned was goals, being able to hit goals, attain. Have you been able to set markers to this point for where the conversation should go? And do you feel like you've been able to hit those and move the needle? Or is it just more conversation?
We're just beginning, and this is really a long-term proposition when you're talking about things like poverty rates and population gain or decline. You know, these kind of educational attainment kinds of issues. Mm-hmm. These are long-term propositions, and so what's become important is trying to set the near-term or short-term objectives that we think will play into those longer-term goals. And that's really been a process that the steering committee's been involved with now for some time, and it's an ongoing process. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's really first on the list, so to speak, is to, we're talking about hiring an executive director or a program director that would be someone who could wake up every morning thinking about what's the most important thing to do next, and help connect some of these dots on a day-to-day basis. And so we've been really involved here recently in identifying enough dollars to be able to really think seriously about bringing a person on board, and hiring that person to take on that role. And we try and assure that for like the next 3 years. So we make sure we give ourselves a good track record, a good runway, and we intend that the foundation, Wayne County Foundation, will incubate this project during that period, and at the end of 3 years, be able to really better determine what sort of progress we've been able to make, and whether it's worth a continued investment or not.
You found those dollars. You've actually put out a job description for that person. No one is hired, at least at the recording of this particular interview, but you have kind of set some goals as to where you would like to see that person begin.
Right. As
they start, kind of a 3+1, I think you call them near-term goals.
Right. Yeah, those, and of course I don't remember what they are. But
I have cheat sheets.
I know. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me. No. You were. The near-term goals really relate to employability and workforce development, mm-hmm. and early childhood education. I believe broadly encompasses those three things, and then the +1 is a communication plan that we hope to put together. But it was a really great experience because the organizations that we went to help us fund this, mm-hmm. Were very clear that they wanted us to develop these short-term goals and have some measurable expectations for ourselves in the next 6 to 12 months. And so that was a good process and good direction, and they're really it's really still under development, if you will.
One of the things that really struck me was that almost +1, being able to update the community in relatable terms as to what's going on. I mentioned almost jokingly near the beginning of this conversation that that's a piece that always seems to be missed. So the community always has this feeling of there's nothing going on, there's conversation, and that's all that's happening, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I assume it was very intentional, and you just talked about the group of people that you went through. Was that piece of keeping the community up to date with what's going on, was that a piece of what they wanted?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And from the beginning, we've said we need to, we're doing a lot of good things here, and there's a lot of good things going on, but we have to move from collective conversation to collective action. And that's really what Forward Wayne County is all about, is to better align these resources, a lot of which are already in place, to add to them where we need to, but to really better align what we're doing to enable us to get some synergy out of that, to really be more effective, to help everyone understand what everyone else is doing. Mm-hmm. And so that, for example, that an organization that is out doing those things to pursue its own mission will be able to make decisions about what they do with respect to the big picture goals. So we're not asking anyone to do something different than what they're doing. We're asking them to think about how they're doing it with respect to what the big picture is.
Once you get the executive director hired, brought in, they work through their goals, how often do you plan to continue kind of meeting, updating, and what is that person's biggest responsibility to start off with?
Well, the steering committee has been meeting monthly, and I would expect that to continue. There will likely be an executive committee of the steering committee to work more directly with this individual on a more frequent basis. And we have a list of things identified for that person when he or she comes on board to begin to do what to do first, so to speak. But I think really the communication plan would probably be tops on the list, because it relates to all the other pieces of the effort, and that's sort of from scratch to create that. The other things on the list relate to bringing together certain groups of people and facilitating certain things that already have some start to them to some degree. So I would put a real emphasis on the communication plan.
I'm going to kind of turn, because we're probably in our last couple of minutes here, and really kind of put you as executive director of the foundation on the spot, because in that role, you see, hear, have a lot of conversation with a number of different people, not-for-profit organizations, government leaders, community leaders, about what's going on. What do you see from your seat are a couple of our biggest challenges right now as a community, and do you see the synergy of people working together to solve those things?
Yeah, I think we can define some of the bigger challenges in terms of opportunity. And right now, we've got a number of properties here in the downtown area that will need redevelopment. We've got all the construction that's going on in town is going to leave us in a much better place. And so how do you leverage that? How do you build on that once all that is done? The old Reed hospital property is coming down. And so to get, I know people have been thinking about that and what to do with that property, but, to bring together some different groups of people to look at a long-term use for that property, for the Elder Bierman building, for some other things that are around near the downtown area, as well as out in the county. What are the next steps beyond the ones that are in progress right now? And so let's get ahead of that curve and begin to get in front of those things.
Do you see us better making the connection between Richmond and the rest of Wayne County? There's always been this push-pull, one doesn't feel as loved as the other one. I know that there has been some conversation about trying to make it a more cohesive unit, and there are a number of initiatives that the state has started where working regionally makes more sense.
Right.
Are we getting our house in order here?
Well, I'd like to think so. The foundation has always been focused on the county level, and really everything we get involved in, that's a question we ask. And even if it's Richmond centric, well, how does that relate to the rest of our community? And I think there's been a tremendous emphasis on really not making that division but really approaching things from the standpoint of, hey, this is our community. How do we make it better for everyone? And you've got to start somewhere. So that's what this process of identifying the short-term objectives really is all about. But there's nothing Richmond or not Richmond about educational attainment. There's nothing Richmond or not Richmond about early childhood education and those kinds of needs and developing those resources. And there's nothing particularly Richmond or not Richmond about making sure young people are prepared to be productive in the workforce.
What's next for the foundation? Wayne County Challenge is coming around. I assume you all are beginning to think about and bring people in to talk about that.
Absolutely. We're in some planning modes right now for the challenge match. But I expect it. We've budgeted for that. It'll be in the fall, probably in the usual November time frame. I don't see a lot of big changes right now to the challenge match, but that committee hasn't met yet, so you never know what'll happen. But we want to keep it challenging, but I don't think you'll see any wholesale changes.
Steve Borchers, Executive Director of the Wayne County Foundation. I hope you enjoyed being out of the office and in the sun at least.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harlan, program host for Read Beside You. Join us on our next episode when we'll have from the Reed Foundation, Justin Burkhart and Sarah Wise, Miracle Baker from the Ginkgo Boutique, and Shara Short, Manager of Volunteer Services at Reed Health. Join us Thursdays at 8 o'clock, WETV Channel 20.
Keep up with local government information and shows with WGTV Online. Go to WCTV.info and click on the WGTV Online button. It's a live stream and video on demand site in one. Click the play button, you'll see whatever's on the air on WGTV Channel 11, or scroll down for videos on demand. Choose whatever meeting or show you'd like to watch. It's easy to stay informed with WGTV Online, a service of Whitewater Community Television. And we continue with In Focus here on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. Changed locations and got a chance to speak with Caleb Smith. Most of you know him as somebody with the Richmond Parks and Recreation Department. You may not know anything else about him except that, and that he does the farmers market. So yeah. Caleb, thanks a lot for taking some time on this day.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So
let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
You're not originally from the Richmond, Wayne County area.
Nope.
Tell us a little bit about you, how you got here.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire near Concord. And I grew up there my whole life. My family was Quaker. And when I was about 13, I went to a Quaker boarding school in Iowa called Scattergood Friends School. And it was a agricultural focused Quaker high school. So I was there up until I came to Earlham, and Scattergood has a long history of sending students off to Earlham, so I kind of helped out.
Okay.
Yeah, so New Hampshire, Iowa, Richmond.
All right.
Yeah.
You found Earlham.
Yeah.
Then you found the community surrounding it.
Yeah.
What was your original thought, and what were you originally told when you came to Earlham and Richmond?
So I had actually never visited Earlham or Richmond before I came. I have a lot of family that went to Earlham, and it was sort of one of those schools that, no, I had applied some other places. Turns out that I was looking at all my options, and Earlham was the best fit for me. So I said, okay, I guess I'll go to Earlham. And I showed up in Richmond in August of 2013. And I really had no clue what it was going to be about. And I mean, I was just a 17-year-old kid, kind of still getting my bearings on the world at large.
Sure.
So I don't know, I liked it kind of right off the bat. I didn't get out much my first couple of years beyond campus, but I biked around and I started to get a feel for things. And for me, having lived in small towns all my life, it kind of felt like a big city. So
okay, so you're used to someplace smaller than here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and I had always visited the bigger cities and stuff, being from the East Coast, but it was kind of the first time I'd really lived in a big city where the streets had numbers and letters and all that stuff. And so I liked it right off the bat. There's always this kind of pervading myth at Earlham, I think, that there's nothing to do in Richmond. Richmond's kind of just this other thing that, we don't really go there. I never liked that personally. I always kind of was just like, well, I'm finding things to do just because, I'll go on Facebook, or I'll go out in the community, go to Roscoe's or something, and I'll see posters, and I don't know, I like to think I'm an observant person, so I'd see things and be like, well, there's definitely stuff going on. I didn't get much chance to do much of it my first couple of years, but came to be my senior year and I was able to move off campus. I got an apartment in town, right close to downtown, still live there today, and started really spending more time visiting. I'd go and visit the farmer's market because it was only a couple blocks from my house.
There you
go.
That's
a little clue for later on. But I would do that, and I'd go to Roscoe's, and me and my girlfriend was working in town, and so we all started to get a much better sense of that, there's something going on in Richmond that seems really neat. And Elstra Plaza was being built at the time that
Right.
I started living off campus, so I would drive past this every day and see the progress happening, and so that was pretty exciting for me. That was sort of my first inkling, I guess.
So there is still that, and I'm not originally from here. When I moved here in '88 and saw the Earlham campus, and I go, what is that? And people go, don't worry about it. They keep to themselves, we keep to ourselves.
Yep.
There is still that difference, the same way there's a difference between Richmond and Western Wayne County almost.
Right.
There's this divider between Richmond and Earlham.
Yeah, and it's strange to me because there's so much potential, I think, to have there be more interface, and I think there used to be in the past. When I hear people talk about my dad went to Earlham in the late 60s, early 70s, and talks about they'd be involved with different groups on and off campus. More people lived off campus then. There would be more conversations. More people worked off campus. All that kind of stuff, they'd be involved. And so I think it hasn't always been that way, but in the past 30 years or so, there's been definitely this bubble that I'd love to see break down more. I think there's a lot of potential for Earlham, both in classes and academic experiences, but also in just the way people can live in the community and participate in the community. I think, student concerts could be happening here at Elstra Plaza, or art shows and downtown businesses. Things like that could all kind of happen a lot more, and I hope to see that they do soon.
You mentioned going to school, having kind of that agriculture background. You mentioned visiting the farmers market.
Yeah.
From that visiting the farmers market, how did you connect with the Parks Department and become basically the coordinator of the farmers market?
So my senior year at Earlham, I was an environmental studies major. So I focused on both the economics, environment, all things related to kind of environmental policy and culture. Our senior project, every year the seniors try to do a project that kind of is a practical application of their knowledge over the past 4 years to a real world local issue. And so my senior year, our project was working with the Parks Department on the playground with a purpose at Clear Creek Park. And so I first met Denise when she came in to present some different ideas to us. And as the park superintendent, she had a bunch of different ideas on here's what we could be doing together. And my group chose the playground with a purpose. And that was kind of my first tie-in with the community in a serious way. And it was just an amazing experience getting to work and give back to the community and get so much exposure to what Richmond is actually like, contrary to what I've been hearing over my past 3 years at Earlham. And then also to really learn about, what is Richmond's parks and what is the Richmond community like. And so from that, and this is kind of, it really shows how small of a community Richmond is. So one of my professors at Earlham in the Environmental Studies Department, her husband sells bread at the farmer's market. And so she told me, hey, the Parks Department is looking for a new farmer's market coordinator. And I'd been involved with the student farm at Earlham, and I'd been involved with agriculture previously. She's like, this seems up your alley. And I kind of was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure what my post-graduation plans are. And I was in a meeting with Denise for the Playground with a Purpose project, and it crossed my mind. And after the meeting, I said, hey, Denise, are you still hiring for that farmer's market job? And she was like, well, actually, the application is just closed the past Friday. This was a Monday. No, it was a Tuesday. The application just closed past Friday, but if you're interested, get me a resume. I said, oh, I am. And she's like, well, can you interview this Thursday? So Tuesday, I leave this meeting, I go home, I prep my resume for her, I send it to her on Wednesday. Thursday, I go in to interview. Then the following Monday, and this is in late January, she calls me, she's like, you got the job. And so within a span of a week, I was like, oh, okay.
Now you know what your post-graduation plans are.
I had my post-grad plans, and when I told some of my professors, they couldn't believe it. They said, you got a job in your field, where you want to be, and it pays, like all of the above, and it was really, really amazing.
Gotta love the trifecta.
Yeah, it was the trifecta, and we were able to get me started. I worked short hours while I was finishing up my degree, and then the same day I graduated, I ran my first market. So I got up at 6 in the morning, I got down here, I prepped all the vendors, got them in their spots, and then Denise and someone else came and took over, and I put on my cap and gown and I went and graduated. So that was a busy day and a busy weekend for me.
Talk about the vendors. Talk about how the farmers market has changed over the last couple of years. It looks like the number of vendors have grown. They're under certain restrictions. I think you go out and look at their farms and do some other things. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what the emphasis behind that is.
Yeah, so first off, I'd say one of the biggest kind of changes that the farmers market has undergone is location, and Elstra Plaza is just the perfect home for us. I credit a lot of the current success of the market to having this wonderful location that the city invested in. And then furthermore, we do a growers only policy at the market. So that's what you're talking about, where I go out and I physically inspect each farm to make sure that every vendor is actually growing or making what they're selling, and restrict on that to make sure that it really is a market that supports our local economy and isn't just a pass-through for people to help, as a side gig. We really want this to be a reflection of our local economy, and so that's made a big difference, and it ruffled some feathers at first, but I think it was really the right decision. So when the Parks Department took it over, we instituted that policy, and it made the market go through some changes, but they were necessary, and I think it's benefited the market as a whole. We have customers coming back who are saying, I came back because you guys instituted this policy. I had left because it just wasn't worth it. It was just like going to the grocery store but outside.
Sure.
And so making that change has been enormously beneficial to us. And I think it's really made the market what it is today.
The addition of the winter farmers market,
yeah.
That also seemed to take off. The locations and being able to have a Bloody Mary helps too, I imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was a really great partnership we were able to put together, and just having a winter farmers market, people don't think that you can buy things from a farmers market in the winter because they think farmers, they think your sweet corn, tomatoes, stuff like that. But we do have farmers who grow year round. They have greenhouses where they'll grow greens, carrots, turnips, all that kind of more cold hardy products. And then we have all of our other vendors who do the value added products, baked goods, jams and jellies, all that stuff as well, that people look forward to when coming to the farmers market. And it's gift giving season in the winter, and I love seeing so many people supporting local when doing their gift shopping. I think that's really, really great, because it is a time of high spending for a lot of people, and so if we can make those dollars stay local, that's really important.
You got called out by the mayor during his State of the City address. Did you know that was going to happen?
No.
What was it like sitting there and getting that call out?
It was very surprising. I was very grateful for his recognition, and I obviously don't do it for the recognition, but it was nice to see that there is a lot of people, young people like me, putting work into the community and hoping to shape it, and seeing that recognized was really nice.
And beyond being recognized by the mayor, you were recognized as a young professional here recently. Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, yeah. I was really grateful. HYPE, Helping Young Professionals Engage, is a great organization, and they recognized me and a bunch of other people my age for our dedication to the area. And it was a really neat ceremony, and I was just really grateful to be able to be a part of that and be recognized. It was a great honor. Really nice.
Talked about the young people. You did. There are more young people in this community. The mayor has talked about the fastest growing demographic.
Absolutely.
As a young person that isn't from here, came here, found this community, has stayed in this community, talk a little bit about, as you look around, what our leaders, community leaders, political leaders, need to think about to attract more young people, more young professionals into town who might want to come, stay, raise their family. What are we lacking? What do we have that's good? Give us some background.
I think we're on the right track. And we need to really double down on some of our efforts. I think things like really revitalizing downtown in the Depot District, the Loop project, are all great steps in attracting people to stay here. I'd say, as an Earlham graduate, one of the biggest things is knowing what the opportunities are. I kind of stumbled into my opportunity, but there are lots and lots of people, and the Parks Department does a great job. We have, I think, at least a dozen Earlham graduates working in the Parks Department right now.
Really?
In everything from maintenance, our floral and beautification team, to the recreation staff, interns, and full-time staff, part-time staff. So really trying to reach out and work with Earlham grads, work with IU East grads, to get opportunities out in front of them, and show what an attractive place Richmond and Wayne County is to live, because it is really attractive as a grad with a lot of debt, and someone who wants to make a difference in the world. I always tell friends of mine at Earlham that are considering where to go after graduation, I like, Richmond's a place where you can make a difference. It's a small enough community that people are open and willing, and there's a need. And if you're willing to invest and make yourself a part of the community, you can really make that happen.
And that's important to your generation, as it is.
To our generation, I think, is this idea of making a difference and doing something meaningful with yourself, that's also, what's the word? Sustainable for you as a person. And so I think that's a really important factor. I think things like recreation opportunities, I'm a little biased coming from the Parks Department, but seeing the opportunities I have, and knowing that there's more coming down the pipeline, that there's a reservoir that we can go and boat at, play at, the trails, all that kind of stuff is attractive to me as a millennial. And then,
when they say quality of life issues or quality of place issues, that's really the attractive piece of it for you all.
Yeah, it's this quality of place and you know, the experience, I think when we talk about the business side of things, it's the experience-driven businesses that really attract me personally. So most of my shopping I do online. That's just me and my generation. But when I'm going out and buying something, it's like I want to go to the farmer's market because it's experience-driven. I could buy that same produce online. Right. Not the same produce. I could buy produce online. But it's the experience of going to the farmer's market. Or when I go to Roscoe's, I could go to Starbucks, but I prefer to go to Roscoe's because of the experience I get there. Those kinds of things are really what I enjoy. And so more things like that I think are definitely helpful. The events in Wayne County are also just, I don't think a lot of people at Earlham really realize how much there is to do because it's all in the summer. And so we need to round out those experiences year round, I think, to really make sure that there are fun things for people to do year round and keep people coming out into the community and doing fun things. So I really enjoy that personally and would love to see more of that as well.
Cool. Caleb, thank you very much for taking some time. Thanks for the time and effort that you have put into this community and to making it better, for sticking around and for working through the farmers market. It's one of the places that I enjoy visiting and going to see and talking to the farmers. So thank you for spending some time with us out in the sun today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director. Yes, we have moved again, believe it or not. This is being recorded on a different day, so my outfit is a little bit different than the other two segments of this show that we recorded earlier. But I wanted to stop in actually on the set of In Your Business and talk to its host, IUE's Professor Tim Scales, who is also the Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship. Thanks for letting me crash your set for us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Welcome to the set.
We have been talking about the fact that Whitewater Community Television is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. We have been recording segments for your upcoming season of In Your Business. We're 30 years old. In Your Business is how old?
Well, we're going into our 13th year.
Okay.
So we've had 12 complete years with you and going into the 13th.
I am curious. Now, In Your Business, if you're not familiar with it, airs on WETV Channel 20, which is our educational access channel, on part of our, what we call our Business Block Tuesday, where we have Chamber Chat, Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick, and that's followed up by In Your Business with Tim Scales. So tell me how 13 seasons ago almost, or 13 years ago, In Your Business came about.
Well, it's quite interesting because I had never even considered a television show. And I brought a young man from India to stay at my place for 3 months. His name is Johan DeSales. Okay. And Johan was a student at St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. And Johan's a DJ. He was 19 years old, full of energy. And so when we arrived in Richmond, I asked Johan in my living room, what's one thing you would like to do while you're in the United States? And Johan responded with, I would really like to bungee jump.
Really?
Yes. Now, I had no idea where I'd take this young man to bungee jump. And I said, let me think about it. So the next day, I sat down with him again, and I said, Johan, I'm sorry, I have no idea where to take you to bungee jump, but I would be willing to take you to skydive Wayne County and let you jump out of an airplane. And Johan said, oh, that'd be so much better, okay? and I said, let's get your parents' permission and let's get it set up. And so we did, and we went to skydive Wayne County, and they agreed to let Johan go up, and they went up about 12,000 feet and had him jump out tandem.
Right.
So he was strapped with an instructor. They also had a videographer went up, so we would have the video of it, and he'd be able to cherish that. And so what happens is, I said, we've got to share that with the community, okay? And we had the video, so we came out and talked to the station director and said, what do we do? And we talked it through, and then got to thinking about it, and Johan and I were at the coffee shop, and I said, Johan, have you ever made coffee? He said, no. And I said, you're about to. So I asked the owner of the coffee shop how you would like to do a video. And he said, sure. And so we came up with 21 things that Johan had never experienced and made arrangements to take him to 21 different businesses.
Really?
Interview the business owner and give Johan the experience of working there, if you will, okay? So he jumps out of an airplane at Skydive Wayne County. He makes coffee at the coffee shop. Then we went out to the Christmas tree farm and had him cut down a Christmas tree.
Okay.
So 21 experiences that he had never had. And that occupied my 3 months with him. It kept him busy, kept him challenged.
Sure.
And it turned into a great television show of In Your Business. Now what was really interesting was Johan went back to St. Xavier's. Father Frazier was the principal at St. Xavier's. He contacted me and he said, could you please tell me what happened with Johan? And Johan went back telling all these great things, and they didn't believe him. So I had to explain to him that it's all true, and there's more, okay? And so he said, if this is all the case, I want you to come to St. Xavier's and teach my other 20,000 students. And I said, I'd be honored. So the next summer, I went to Mumbai, India, went to Johan's College, St. Xavier's, and taught for 2 months. During that 2-month period, there were some students at St. Xavier's that served as translators for me. And we filmed 8 episodes of In Your Business there in Mumbai with businesses that speaks Hindi. And so the students from St. Xavier's would translate for me. And so I would do my show just like I do here, but it would all be in Hindi. That's how we started. And now here we are going into our 13th year. We've made changes, we've made adjustments.
Sure.
We used to go out to the businesses. Today they come to us. We used to film on DVDs, and then we went to flash drives, and today we just do virtual reality right straight to the television.
Nothing's real here.
It's been rapid change, but it's been so fun, so interesting. We've been able to show a lot of people in the community a lot of things about businesses. We've used it in the classroom to teach business. It's just been a great time, and it's been a great learning tool.
Now, you're one that is into technology, so our ability to use some different technology, use a virtual set and that type of thing really seemed to engage you even a little bit more in this program.
Absolutely, because if you come to my office, you come to my center, you're going to see a lot of students, okay? And we're always looking at the next great thing that's coming out. We're looking whether it be a video game or whether it be a new business, maybe it's a product, maybe it's a service. We're always discussing the new, latest, greatest. And I do recall just a few years ago, you and I having a conversation because, you know, I was looking at some of the other shows that you host, that you bring on, and I kept saying, well, what about that? And how about that? Because we can do a lot of magical things with television.
Sure.
Okay? And so I wanted to try some new things, and you said, how about next season we go virtual? And we did.
Talk about some of the interesting conversations that you've had through the years, because dealing with entrepreneurs is a little bit different. That's a driven group of people.
Yeah.
They have an idea, they pursue that idea, they find the funding for that idea, they work that idea, and they work that idea hard.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the folks that you've had a chance to talk with through the years that really have kind of stood out for you, and why?
Oh, the characteristics are so similar in so many ways, and yet they're so different because each of their personalities are so unique. I would say that almost all of them are so committed, though. You know, they're working long hours. They'll do whatever it takes to make sure it's a success. And when I say a success, I would say the largest percentage of them are there for their employees and their community. I've yet to have anybody say, I'm trying to make money. It's not what they're there for. They're there to serve our communities, and they're also there to give, you know, a good life to their families and to the people who are working for them. I would say that what's really interesting, though, is to watch how passionate they are about their product, their service. And each of their products and services have been so diverse. I mean, from technology to maybe somebody who's doing retail to manufacturing. And entrepreneurs, they're everywhere, it seems. And a lot of people, the entrepreneurship is like their side gig. So maybe they had an 8 to 5, or maybe they had, you know, a 40, 50-hour work week somewhere else, and then they're doing the entrepreneurship on the side. And it comes in so many different ways, and we've learned about that. And it's been a wonderful time and experience to be with these entrepreneurs.
As you go into most of your seasons, you don't really have a theme, and sometimes you don't even really know where you want to go. Has doing this show helped you find out more about some of the businesses that actually exist in this area?
Oh, absolutely, because what I'll do is I'll go out and start asking. I'll come to your office and say, Eric, who do you think would be great on the show? And you'll give me 3 or 4, and I'll call the chamber, and I'll call the innovation center, and I'll call different businesses, and I'll just keep asking for maybe 6 weeks. Who do you think? Who do you think? Who do you think? And people give me ideas, and then I'll find out about somebody who's making new lotions or things over here, and I'll find out about somebody who's opened up a resale shop over here, and I'll find out about a new manufacturer out there, and then what I like to do is go visit them. I go visit their business, I learn about their business, and even if they're not coming on the show, it becomes a resource that I can use in a classroom or I can use in a community, because that's what we're here about, is to support and basically economic development in our community.
Sure.
And to make sure that things are good, the quality of life is good here in Wayne County.
Business is obviously the driver. Small business in this community is a huge economic driver, and I think that has continued through the years. Talk to me as you have gone out, because you obviously look at this from a lot of different perspectives.
Sure.
Talk about where you think the state of small business is in the Wayne County area.
Well, I think it's the driving force. Okay, honestly, we have just a handful of what I would call large business, and what's defined as 500 plus employees. We only have a couple.
Right.
Okay, beyond that, everything is small business. And I would say that when I go out looking for entrepreneurs, I'm looking for that individual that owns the business, has started the business, that runs the business. However, there's a lot of small businesses that are ran in this community by a manager or somebody who really acts like the entrepreneur. Okay, so even if it's somebody who's headquartered, say, out of Texas or Arizona, when it comes to their business here locally, you'll find their manager serving as an entrepreneur.
You've got a chance to interact with a lot of students, and in your time here at Indiana University East, the general population has changed. They were doing associate's degrees, they're no longer doing that. They're doing more bachelor's, master's degrees programs. The general age of the student has gotten younger. How has that changed how you teach and how you approach students?
Well, I have to tell you, Eric, it's a good thing I teach the way I do and the way I interact with students, because from the day one that I entered this campus, I said we're going to learn together, we're going to share. And this campus, when I came here, was very non-traditional. And we had a lot of people working in the daytime, maybe coming to classes in the evening, and they would bring a lot of experience to the classroom that I would learn from. They would share with me what they're doing at their job, and then we would apply that to things I'm teaching in the classroom. Today, a lot of our students may be a bit younger. I'm a bit older, and we've adjusted. But I've not noticed that transition in age, because the way I teach is in a sharing. So the students are still sharing with me. But today, instead of maybe having an older student share with me, I'm having a younger student share with me, and we're bringing it together. And it's really fascinating, because even when we talk about the technology, a lot of times I get my technology leads from, say, my 20-year-old student. However, when I go out in the industry and find that technology being applied, it'll be somebody who's very non-traditional. It might be a 65-year-old CEO that says, Tim, you've got to look at what I'm doing with my company with that technology. So we're all sharing together, we're learning together, we're growing together. I take students with me out into the field. We go to economic development events, and the students go professional with me. And what they share and learn at the table is just amazing, because we'll come back and they'll sit and chat with me and say, we had this discussion, and they felt like they could lead the discussion because they've already had the discussion with me.
Business is important, obviously. Talk about what you, the director of the Center for Entrepreneurship, and as a professor here at IU East, are able to teach some of the students coming in. I know you do a lot of sharing, but what are the opportunities that you've been able to provide, or that the campus has been able to provide in that way in helping train students, particularly on the business side?
I would have to say that there's been several, but probably the one that stands out the most is the fact that I can really teach you how to do a business plan. And all the components that go into that, I make you think it through. And so I can work with you to where it's not overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So if you come to me and say, Tim, I'm interested in starting a business, or I have a business, I need some assistance, I would say our strongest tool is going to be the business plan, because I make you think it through about your management style, what's going to be effective, your hours, your pricing. I want to talk about, you know, all the things that go into the business, even your distribution model, even to your exit plan. Okay, so that
your exit plan, huh?
Absolutely, because you've got a plan for that. You've got to decide, am I going to continue to grow, and then what do I have? Am I going to sell it at that point, or am I going to leave it to somebody? You know, and if I'm going to leave it to somebody, I've got to get them trained. So you've got to have an exit strategy. Otherwise, you're going to fail. And so all those things have to go in there. But I'm going to say to you, entrepreneurs come to me in all areas, not just business. And so sometimes that's interesting, is to teach a non-business individual about business. And so
define that. What do you mean a non-business individual, teach a non-business individual business?
I mean somebody who has a background, say, in social work, and maybe they've even studied social work. And so what they're really good at is helping other people. Maybe they go into a home that's not worked out so well, and they go in and they work with the individuals in that home. The next thing you know, they're starting a business in home services to help individuals. Maybe I can help them with the business plan then, so they know what kind of locations they need. They know the hours. They need the license and all of the things that go into it. So oftentimes somebody might be studying biology, or they might be studying criminal justice. And criminal justice is one of my favorites, because when we talk about criminal justice, you're thinking law enforcement.
Right.
And oftentimes there may be an opportunity for a security service. And that security service becomes a business. And if we don't teach that individual the importance of the business plan, mm-hmm. show them how to price, show them how to manage, show them how to do these things, they're going to get overwhelmed, and they're not going to be a success in business. Or they may not be a success in business. So they're going to learn some of it doing it, mm-hmm. but we can certainly teach them with the business plan tools.
How important has it been, the travel that you've been able to do with the students, to take them other places, show them different things, particularly the number of first-generation students that we have here on this campus, first-generation college students on this campus?
I think it's one of the most important things I do. And I'm not talking about the international, because I've had students in Brazil, I've had students in India, I've had students in South Africa, but I think the most important thing is when I take them to Indianapolis.
Really?
If I can take them to Chicago, if I can take them to Kansas City, I would love to take them to New York. And I'll tell you why is I think they really need to understand what goes outside of Wayne County. They need to understand the United States. And I can tell you, one of the things that really, really impressed me was I had a young man who was very uncomfortable wearing a tie. Okay? Mm-hmm. He said he's not going to do it. And I made him do it. I insisted, if you're going to go with me to this meeting in Indianapolis, you're going to wear a tie. It can be my tie, but you're going to wear a tie. I tie so many ties on this campus, it's not funny, but I don't mind doing it. And so I started having him wear a tie. He actually started enjoying it. He started realizing that when we go to Indianapolis, if you're dressed like we are today, mm-hmm. people respect you, okay? Oftentimes they'll stop and say, sir, and he's like, he likes it, he knows that he's earned that respect, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think we're casual sometimes here in Wayne County, and so they're not used to seeing people dressed. And when we go to a larger city and they start seeing that they really want to be a part of it, and they realize the impact. That same young man, just a few months after we made that transition of him never wanting to wear a tie mm-hmm. to enjoying it, what do you think he asked his parents to get him for Christmas?
Shirts and ties.
Suits.
No, he went full boat.
He did. And to this day, when he and I are together, he's an alum, mm-hmm. he will outdress me. He goes all out. He will always make sure that he outdresses me. And to me, that's one of the biggest compliments I get, and it's the reward I get for teaching the way that I do. It's not always easy. Mm-hmm. I tell them, You can change 10 minutes before, you can change 10 minutes after, but you are going to be professional for my event.
We've been talking with Indiana University East Professor Tim Scales, also the director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and the host of In Your Business, which you can see Tuesday evenings at 9:30 on WETV Channel 20. Thank you very much for spending some time with me.
I've enjoyed it.
I appreciate you letting me sit in on your set.
Well, welcome.
A couple of things we want to remind you about real quickly. If your not-for-profit organization has an event that you want us to get on the air, let us know at least a couple of weeks ahead of time. Send that information to wctv@iue.edu and we'll be sure to get it on. There is no cost for that. A couple of quick things to mention. Historic summer stock tent Nettle Creek Players going on Into the Woods, still taking place through the 28th at 7 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays, and then Thursday, August 2nd at 7 p.m. If you'd like some information, nettlecreekplayers.com. Centerville Saturday is taking place. Centerville is having a community fest on Saturday the 28th. Community markets open from 10 to 4 on North Morton. The Beer Garden. Free concert. For more information, call 914-4228. Wayne County Writes, an annual writing workshop for all taking place on Saturday from 9 till 4. West Richmond Friends Meeting, 609 West Main Street. For information, check out the website on the screen. Tools for Schools, it's back to school time, and they are collecting some school supplies at this Saturday night's Jazz game. It's the last game for the Jazz during the season. It's also Chamber Night, that's the 28th. They'll be collecting supplies. Check out ciswaynco.org if you want more information. Rock the Library is happening on the 28th. Balloon animals, games, rock band, face painting, and a whole lot more. mrlinfo.org for information on that. And Cool Composting is happening at Cope Environmental Center this Saturday from 10 to 11:30. That, of course, is on Airport Road. I want to thank once again our guests in this show, Professor Tim Scales. We also talked to Caleb Smith and Steve Borchers. We'll be back again next week with another edition of In Focus. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.